excited to have the opening today of the exhibition about women's suffrage being run by the Houses of the Oireachtas as part of our Votail100 programme, and we're running it in conjunction with the National Museum of Ireland, and the museum staff have done an incredible job in curating it, particularly Sandra Heise, who's been the main curator on the exhibition. But we're just so thrilled to have so many wonderful artefacts, so many objects, and such a great display around the winning of the suffrage campaign by women 100 years ago and around the struggle for women's rights before and after that. But in particular, we've got some amazing physical objects, including the original podium, the mobile podium on which suffragettes would speak to the public at mass meetings, and the banner, the Irish Women's Franchise League banner donated by the Sheehy Skeffington family for the exhibition. I think this exhibition will achieve a lot. I think first of all there's going to be huge public interest in seeing an exhibition on suffrage and citizenship, which is the title of it, because it will remind everyone about the struggle for women's right to vote, how long that took over many decades, the many brave individual women and indeed men who fought for the right to vote. But I think also it has a very contemporary message to all of us about the importance of democracy, the importance of the right to vote, and the need to ensure we have a better gender balance in politics. So I think it will encourage more young women in particular to come forward into politics. We really want to see it do that, and we really want to send out a message about the need for more women to get actively engaged. I think it's really important to mark the achievements of Hannah Sheehy Skeffington, of Margaret Cousins, of Louis Bennett, of Constance Markievicz, of Winifred Carney, and of all the other remarkable women who fought so hard for suffrage over so many years. And of course remembering also the earlier suffragists like Isabella Todd, who set up the first suffrage organisation on the island of Ireland in the late 19th century. So it's a movement that isn't just 100 years old, but it's a movement that in fact had been active in Ireland for many decades before 1918. Before finally achieving the removal of gender as a barrier to voting rights in the Representation of the People Act 1918. So we're remembering those remarkable women, their male comrades who fought alongside them, but we're also remembering their achievement and celebrating their achievement 100 years on. But I was delighted as chairperson of the Votail100 committee to be with the members of the committee in the Ceann Comhairle yesterday in London, where we gave a portrait of Constance Markievicz to the Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow. And this was particularly significant because it marks the first time that the House of Commons will have formally recognised Markievicz as the first woman elected to the House of Commons, the first woman MP. Of course, she didn't take up her seat. She instead took up her seat in the first Dáil Éireann in 1919. But nonetheless, her achievement is hugely historic, and we really feel it's very important in the spirit of reconciliation between the two islands that her achievement will be formally recognised. Her portrait will now be hung as part of the Voice and Vote exhibition in Westminster and will then go on permanent display in the House of Commons.
The exhibition today is really part of the Votail100 celebrations, and this is looking at votes for women, and the objects on display are very varied. So what we've got is a wonderful collection given by the Sheehy Skeffington family, and amongst that we have the original banner of the Irish Women's Franchise League, and you can see you can imagine them walking around with that, and really that's what the objects are doing in this exhibition, is they're offering people an opportunity to imagine them being used in this really important part of our history. There's a lectern as well that was regularly used by the women to make their speeches, and just at the top of that is an inscription saying "Votes for Women" as a kind of reminder to them about what they were at and what the importance of it was. There's also some wonderful pieces, which is a small letter from David Lloyd to Markievicz when she was in prison, to remind her to be present at the opening of the Parliament, which in of itself is kind of hard to get your head around. So all of these objects tell a wonderful story about this particular time when we were seeking votes for women, were successful in getting it, and the lead up to that. And also they tell us a little bit of a story about what happened in the subsequent 100 years. I think what's really important about these kinds of collaborations that you have in this exhibition between the Houses of the Oireachtas and the National Museum is that it gives an opportunity to bring our collection out so that people can actually see it and have conversations about it, but in the context of both the history of the Oireachtas itself, but also contemporary history. So, you know, history is currently in the making, and that's really what this exhibition is telling us, and I think that the objects allow us to have conversations about the kind of things that we're looking at currently within our Constitution. It gives us an idea idea about the role that our senators have in Ireland and what they're currently seeking. It also, I think, is a reminder of the importance of women to put themselves forward into these kinds of positions. And I certainly know that, you know, from the committee's perspective around the Votail, that's a really critical part. And on all of these events and exhibitions are encouraging women to get much more involved in politics in Ireland. And I hope that perhaps this exhibition will do that, and maybe standing there looking at that lectern will get young women to think, well, actually, I have something that I want to say from that lectern, or I have something that I want to say from the floor of the Seanad, and that's really what it's all about.
It's wonderful to see the exhibition, to see some of the things that I grew up with, like the platform, the Votes for Women platform, you know, which was in the House, and the banner. You know, to see them actually getting pride of place and being honoured for what they are, because they represent so much in the stages of the fight for the votes. I mean, the platform, the women used to stand up on those and get heckled in Phoenix Park and talk away and demonstrate that they were well able to speak and express opinions, and therefore very well able to vote. And the banner is in green and orange, which is the Irish suffrage colours, and it was a real statement, because obviously it's an Irish Republic kind of colour, so it's really nice to see it with all the Irish embroidery and that done by the Doneamer Guild. So it's very nice to see that, and of course it's in the Irish language, Carmanach Oscor Cochrama Naman on the other side, which is actually in one of the photos. You can see that because they went to Hyde Park with the banner. So yeah, I mean, those two items in themselves, as well as the whole story, and I've seen things that I didn't know about already in the exhibition. I want to come back and explore it further, because there's loads to see here. This is the anniversary of women being granted the vote. It's the anniversary later on this year of the first elections when Countess Markievicz was elected. But all the work that those women did to get that far, to have Parliament say, perhaps we should give the vote to the select number of women, it wasn't all of them. You know, I think we really have to commemorate that, because that was hard work. As I say, they stood up on platforms, they were, you know, heckled, thrown in prison. Hannah, my grandmother, was one of the first to be arrested. Then they went on hunger strike. Each time they went to prison, several of them went on hunger strike. So they not only put their lives on hold, but they put them in danger. You know, and that's the suffragettes, but then there's a whole suffragist movement behind them. So it's really important that we know a bit more about that, you know, the vote for women wasn't won lightly at all. I think she would be proud of how far we've come. She would be very proud of the fact we've had 2 very good female presidents. But yeah, there's a lot more to do. I mean, Ivana Bacik was just saying that the Oireachtas doesn't have enough representation of women, and we know, and as I know in the workplace, and that we don't have equal parity. We're not treated perhaps with the same respect. There's a lot of things, a lot of issues, which Hannah would have alluded to. She said until all the taboos are got rid of against women, you know, so she wasn't just saying equal pay and equality is the taboos, what women shouldn't do, or, you know, shouldn't be allowed to do, all that kind of thing. She's saying we haven't got, the nation isn't free until the women have got the emancipation, and the men haven't got emancipation either. So yeah, I think she would be out there struggling and fighting for the other, trying to establish more equality, because there was a lot more to do. And I think she might be a little bit shocked if she came back, oh, is this as far as you got?